Okay, guys, I started recording lesson 2, History of the Regions. We're talking about Siberia. At the beginning, who can tell me when the first human arrived in Siberia? Nanu?
Caucasus. Oh, sorry.
ماشي. About 1000 مش عارفة BC, Turkic, Iranian, Mongol, and Chinese people began migrating into Siberia for Central and Eastern Asia.
So then Alaska became
Really?
now Alaska is to become the first people who are in Alaska become the first people in the Americas. Now let's talk about the settlements, invasion, and the conquest. Which empires have started this, and what kind of invaders came to invade the area? يلا يا جوزي.
Okay. The Turk, Iranian, Mongol, and Chinese people began migrating into southern Siberia from Central and Eastern Asia. They were the first nomads who lived in small groups.
Yes. So first were nomads, then other groups were?
Other groups were hunter-gatherers.
Yes, were hunter-gatherers, and they were herding animals.
Yes.
Okay. So they were, at the beginning, they were nomads moving from one place to another in search for food. Then they were hunters and gatherers. All right. Then we've called about something called the pastoral. Who can answer? But some from the online students. Who are the pastorals? Maya?
Miss, who are they?
Who are the pastoral? Pastoral.
Pastorals, their lives were based on herding animals.
Yes.
And there's some groups here.
These are some groups who of the first people. Then the invaders came. From where did the invader came and what did they do? Rashwan.
Was it the question?
I repeat the question. From where did the invaders came and where did they go?
From Manchuria, in the northeast, China, onto the central Siberian plateau. And they were the first of several people to conquer parts of Siberia and add it to their empire.
Yes. Yes. These other invaders included?
The Huns, Mongols, and Tartars. The Tartars were defeated by the Russians who have been coming into Siberia to trade for furs.
Yes. So there were many invaders to the area. The Mongols, the Tatars, which were the Russians, the Huns, and at the beginning there were the Manchurians. Okay, let's talk about Russian Siberia. We said at the last empire were the Russian. What did the Russian do how did they invade the area at the beginning? Hannah Hamzi.
They built small forts and trading posts.
Yes.
And some of these sites eventually became towns.
Yes, it became towns and they tried to extend their control to the Pacific Ocean. So most Russians were living in Siberia. Then came the Tsar. Which Tsar? What did he do? What happened to him?
Tsar Peter?
Yes. No, this is Tsar Peter or Tsar
لا يبقى ده
Nicholas?
Tsar Nicholas and his family.
Yes, Tsar Nicholas and his family. This was a Russian Tsar, and what did he do, Yaneno? Tell us about his story.
He used Siberia as a place for exile for political prisoners. Then he was executed along with his family.
Yes, thank you. Why was Siberia used? Why especially Siberia? Hannah Durgam. What made Siberia perfect as an exile for prisoners? Hannah Durgam? Yes, huh?
Okay. Lack of road and other transportation links.
Transportation.
Okay, sorry. links inhibited Siberia's development until the Trans-Siberian Railroads was built.
Thank you, Hannah.
across-
So at the beginning, there was lack of routes and other transportation, which make it isolated and perfect choice for exiled political prisoners. But then there was a development. They have started the development of Trans-Siberian Railroad. They were built, okay, to encourage the settlement. And the Tsar began offering settlers free land to be settled in Siberia. How did the railroad affected the situation there? Who can tell me? Ali Sham.
Miss, can you repeat the question?
Again, how did the railroad allowed or developed the situation in Siberia?
The railroad allowed the easier export of products from the region. Coal mines were opened in several locations. Modern farming methods were introduced, and the farmers began producing dairy products and large amounts of grain.
Thank you very much, Yani. Then after any kind of colonization, you'll find the revolution and the development. As Nano mentioned, the Tsar was overthrown by execution, and then the communists took control. What happens when the communists try to control Siberia? Yes, ya Maya.
Siberian leaders resisted the new government.
Mhm.
In 1922, the communists brought Siberia under control. Siberia became part of the Union of the Soviet Socialist Republics, also called the country they formed from the Russian Empire.
Thank you very much, ya Maya. Then Soviet leaders increased mining industry in the region, especially along the Trans-Siberian Railroad. Much of the expansion came through the use of forced labor. We said we have negotiated this in the class. We said that although communism was, as you can see, a good system, but it has its pros and cons. Reem, can you tell me about the pros and cons of the communism system? I want someone to tell me the pros and someone to tell me the cons. So Reem, are you here?
Yes.
Reem, you tell me about the pros of the system, and who hasn't participated today?
Miss me.
Who?
Jude.
I know you were busy. I know you were very busy, Judy. Okay, work with the Reem. Go ahead.
Okay. May I say the cons?
Yes, start Yarim with the pros, then she will see the cons.
Okay. No, there's they paid low wages,
Yes.
and there was a child labor, and the idea of communism was never established. Miss, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Very well. The idea of communism was established to do what, Yarim? To make everyone
equal.
Yes, to make them equal, and every property will be owned by which organization? Do we have the right to have special properties?
No.
Who will own them?
اللي هو the leader, I don't know, the leader of the communism.
Not the leader, the government or the country itself.
Okay, yes.
Right?
Yeah. Yes.
So we said that everything belongs to the government, and there are no special properties. These and people will be equal under one system. These are the pros of the system. Judy, the cons of the system, the communism.
The communist government policies were implemented in Gulag, the communists also combined the lands of small farmers into large government-run farms called collectives.
Yes, so the people were called collectives, and they were working for very low wages.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Judy. Then came the World War II, and Germany invaded Russia during World War II, and the Soviet leaders relocated some factories in Siberia. So what happens after World War II? Who can tell me what happens after World War II? Okay, let's see. Lujina?
Okay, Siberian industry continued to grow after the war.
Mhm.
In the late 1990s, oil production increased, but has not reached the levels of the late 1980s. Yet oil prices have risen, giving the Russian government a steady source of income. Complete.
Yes, China's increased need.
China's increased need for oil has led to calls to develop Eastern Siberia's untapped reserves.
So after the World War II and after Germany was invading Russia, the situation economically was improving a little bit. They have discovered many sources for income, especially the oil reserves, and the oil prices have become or have risen, which given them a steady source of income. Okay, let's move to the situation in Central Asia. Who can tell me what happened to Central Asia? Of course, it will have the same history as Siberia, but there was a very important road in Central Asia. What road is it and what's its importance? Yusuf. Yusuf,
Yes, miss.
حبيبي قول لي, in Central Asia, there is a very important road in Central Asia and it was very important. What's the name of the road and what's its importance?
Silk Road.
Yes, the Silk Road. What's its importance?
It's important road for the trading.
Mhm. It links between
Um,
which continents or which countries? It links between what and what?
China and Europe.
China and Europe. Yes. So this road was very important and has made many people want to invade Central Asia in order to control that route. Nomad groups also have been in the region in the dry and the plains. I said that there were nomad peoples or nomad groups living in Central Asia. Why they were happy by being nomads? I asked this question in the class. Why were the nomads happy by being living as nomads? كنزي الطحان.
Because no one can control them, because they want to have a freedom.
Yes, they wanted to be live in freedom. They don't want any invader to be controlling them. They were having in the desert and the dry weather their own laws. Thank you very much. Let's move back to the influence of Islam. What was the influence of Islam on on Central Asia, and did people like the influence of Islam or not? And what are the empires who controlled the area? Let's start by the control of Islam first, the influence. Let me see. Hala. Hala, you're here? Hala. Hmm. Guaid. Adam Guaid is here, guys.
Miss, may you let Ali enter?
Yes, okay. I will.
Yes, yes.
Adam, can you please answer this one? Tell me about the
The Arab
influence of
conquest.
Islam. Huh.
The Arab conquest of Central Asia is the Arab.
Yes,
Sorry.
the Arab conquest.
The Arab conquest of Central Asia in the early 70s brought the religion of Islam to the region, where it
Yes.
remains the main religion today. And the Arabs were soon replaced by the Persians.
Persians, yes. So wait here, Adam, 1 minute. I said that the Arab conquest was the main, or the Arab conquest in Central Asia. So Islam became the main religion in the area. This is number one. Number two, there were many empires who came to control the area. Number one, the Persians. Huh? Number two, Adam. Huh? Who came after the Persians?
The Mongols.
The Mongols, yes. They have conquered the region. Then after the Mongols came
Timur.
Timur, yes, these were number three, and they have overthrown the Mongol rulers, and they have conquered a huge region and stretched from the Caucasus to India. Thank you very much. Thank you, Adam. So at the beginning, there were the Persians, then came the Mongols, then came the Timur, then they have stretched their kingdom from the Caucasus to India. The Silk Road city of Samarkand was the capital of Timur Empire. What's the importance of Samarkand? Importance of Samarkand. Let me see. Lujaina Abbas. Lujaina Abbas. Not here. طيب أيسر الرفاعي. أيسر الرفاعي. Okay, guys, if I'm calling someone and he's not answering, I will remove him from the meeting. Fadia?
Yes.
Fadia, can you tell me the importance of the Silk Road city of Samarkand?
It was a strong road that connected Europe to China with Europe.
No, I'm not talking
And,
about the
it traded
Silk Road.
spices.
Fadia, I'm not talking about the Silk Road. I'm talking about the Silk Road city of Samarkand under the influence of Islam at the end.
Okay. Okay. The Silk Road city of مش عارفة إيه was the
Samarkand.
capital of Timur's Samarkand was the capital of Timur's empire.
So number one, it
He
was
made
the
the
capital of
city a
Timur's
center of
empire.
culture by
He made the city center of culture by
he
bringing
made the city a center of artists and scholars from other parts of the empire. Continued his support of arts and science by establishing ma- إيه؟ مد- madrasas,
Madarasis.
Islamic Center of Learning.
Yes, there were the Islamic center of learning.
Samarkand became a major center. Okay, Samarkand became a major center for the study of astronomy and mathematics.
Thank you, Fadia. And it became the major center of astronomy and mathematics. Let's move back to the Russian rule and after. Tsar Peter, who came after Tsar Peter the Great. Who can tell me about the rule of Tsar Peter the Great? What did he do to the Russian Empire? Okay. Nano?
Tsar Peter the Great began expanding the Russian Empire into Central Asia. By mid-1800s, most of the region was under Russian control. The Russians' main interest was to grow cotton in Kazakhstan and مش عارفة إيه, to increase production. They began to gate the land. They also expanded the railroads to link the region with Russia.
So when Tsar Peter the Great came, his main interest was the grow cotton in the two countries of Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. And the second one is to expand the railroads to link the region to Russia. Okay? Then came the Russian Revolution. What happens after? What was their demands and what happens after the Russian Revolution? Hana Durgham. What are the demands of what were the demands of the Russian Revolution?
Okay, part of the Central Asia took advantage of the unrest of declare their independence. I continue?
Yes.
By 1920, communist force from Russian had regained control under the Treaty of Union. Five of the Central Asia countries became part of the Soviet Union.
Okay, so it became part of the Soviet Union. 5 of the Central Asian countries became part of the Soviet Union. This was the result of the Russian Revolution. So Soviet rule brought great changes. Who can explain them? Soviet rule has brought a lot of great changes. Maya?
The Soviets built dams on rivers to generate electric power and collect water for irrigation. They also built one of the world's longest canals, the Karakum Canal, to carry water from the Amudarya River more than 500 miles to irrigate desert land near the Caspian Sea. They also increased industry by opening mines and factories to develop the region's mineral wealth.
Correct. But the changes also had their negative impacts. What were the negative impacts of the changes that have been made by the Soviet leaders? Judy, what were the negative impacts?
The Soviet leaders resettled large numbers of Russians and other Europeans in the region. The local farmers and nomadic herders were forced to one collective. The Soviet tried to uproot the local cultures. They closed the mosques to end the practice of Islamic religion in the region.
The region, yes. But after a while, actually, the Soviet Union has collapsed and the republics declared independence, and the region's present-day countries were formed. Most of the countries are still struggling with problems because their economy has been affected. Many problems has arose after the Soviet rule. Among the problems were modernizing their economies and dealing with the ethnic tensions and dictatorial rulers. Three problems has been arose after the Soviet Union collapsing, dealing with the ethnic tensions, dictatorial rules, and modernizing their economies. Let's move back to the Caucasus. Let's talk about the Caucasus. Summarize it quickly because the session is about to end. The Caucasus was a crossroads between Europe, Asia, which has برضو been invaded by many people like the Persians, the Turks, the Russians, which dominated the area. What happened of the early history? Who can elaborate about what happened in the early history? Hannah Hamdi?
Georgia and Armenia have each had periods of self-rule during their long histories. They both existed briefly as powerful kingdoms in ancient times, but came under control of the powerful neighbors. And around the year 300, each threw off Persian rule and established kingdoms again. They became the two of the earliest countries to convert to the Christian religion. Beginning in the 600s, Muslim conquerors brought Islam to the Caucasus.
So at the beginning, Georgia and Armenia have led periods of self-rule during the long histories. They have converted from Islam to Christianity, and they have become, then the Muslim conquers the area again and get back most of them. Later on, the region was conquered by the Mongols, and after the Mongols came the Timur, also like the other kingdoms, like Central Asia. And after that came the Roman Empire. After the Roman empires came the Persians, take control of the region. Then after a long struggle, had shifted to the Persians, and a new power in Southeast Asia were the Ottoman Turks. The Ottomans and the Persians competed for the Caucasus after that. So in the early history, after being converted from Islam to Christianity, there were a long line of kingdoms who tried to invade the area, coming from the Mongols, the Caucasus, the Mongols, the Timurs, then came the Roman Empire, then after that the Persians again, then the Ottoman Empire, which at this area was a very big empire. Then there was the conflict between the Ottomans and the Persians again. Then comes as other areas, the Russian and the Soviet rule. Who can tell me about the Russian and the Soviet rule? Judy?
The Christian Americans, Armenians, and Georgians suffered under Persian and Turkish control in the early 1700s. They turned to Russia for protection from their Muslim rulers. Russia had most of the region. Only part of Armenia remained in the Ottoman Empire.
So at the beginning, they said that they have suffered from their Muslim rulers. Okay, that's why they have turned to the Russian Empire or the Ottoman Empire. During World War II, hundreds of thousands of Armenians died. Who can tell me about this massacre? Nano, tell me about the massacre of the Armenians. Just tell me from your mind, do not read. What happens during the World War I? The Ottoman Empire have forced who to join the war?
لا معرفش. Russia
The Ottoman
ولا
Empire.
Armenia.
Armenians.
Armenia.
It was a genocide, remember?
They killed
Uh-huh.
the Ottoman troops killed hundreds of thousands of Armenians.
Only the men, or I told you about also the women and the children were sent to the desert and killed. What was called
I said Ottoman troops killed thousands of Armenians.
yes, not only during the war, but also the children, also the women. It was one of the biggest massacres. So Armenians were suffering and they wanted to get their freedom. After that, the Caucasus eventually created the Soviet socialist republics from the region. The Caucasus benefit and also suffered under the Soviet rule. We said when they have transformed they have transformed them a largely agricultural area to urban industrial one. This one was one of the good things, but also they ended centuries of invasion, instability, and crushed all the opposition. Then during World War II, Germany invaded the Caucasus, and some of the region ethnic groups were accused of helping the German. Then Caucasus people were killed for showing pride and loyalty for their ethnic identity and culture. So it was a bad thing and a good thing at the same time. They have helped their economy, but at the same time, they have done massive massacres and killed a lot of them just for showing their opinion or for showing pride in their loyalty or their ethnic identity. But at the end, like any other republics, Georgia, Armenia, and Uzbekistan declared their independence in Central Asia. And after the Soviet Union continued to affect these countries, since the independence, these countries have struggled with economic changes, ethnic tensions, and border conflicts. That's it for this lesson. Anyone want to ask any question about this lesson?
No.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
You're welcome.
No, thank you.
See you on Sunday, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Bye.
Bye.